We are. In the meantime, let's go to Dan in Indiana. Dan, you're on Talk Heathen with Eric and V. How are you doing?
I am on Talk Heathen. That's wild.
Well, let's see for how long. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I'm a Mormon, or at least I was raised as a Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
My family is Mormon. My extended family is Mormon. And I guess you could say I've been trying to deconvert. Oh, great! Now all of a sudden, kids are coming in screaming. I've been trying to deconvert now for several years, and if I could just sum up what I believe at this point,
just as long as it's not like
no longer believe in God.
Okay,
but I believe in the Mormon gospel. I don't know if that can make any sense, but I can't, you talk.
So have you looked into cognitive dissonance?
Yeah, I'm familiar with what the term means.
Yeah, and the only reason I bring it up is because, holy crap, that's familiar.
Yep.
You have, V, how many incarnations of your religion did you go through before you left it?
Basically all of them. And that was what actually made me leave, was just stripping this away, replacing it with that, replacing it with this, changing this out. And by the end of it, I was like,
it's the ship of Theseus here. There's
right,
nothing
exactly.
left.
There's nothing left of the original thing, and I'm making up my own religion, essentially. And then I was, everyone else is too. Like, that's how that works.
I know, right? So, for me, it was Eastern religions. I went straight from mine into complete different culture.
There you go, yeah.
And so I jumped into Taoism, mainly, actually. I kind of went around the religions of that area, and then I bounced over to native religions, actually here. Yeah, I know, right? I went to the Sweat Lodge.
Yeah.
And did all that stuff. Yeah, that sucks now that I think about it. You're not getting anything out of it. There are better ways to trip.
Getting a lot of sweat out of it, apparently.
Yeah.
And
then from there, believe it or not, I almost became Jewish.
Really?
Yeah, I went right back to Torah.
Interesting.
And there's this practice. And the practice is that you need to ask the rabbi 3 times and be denied 3 times before they will bring you in. Is to really make sure that you're ready for this commitment. And somebody's supposed to tell you that. So when I called a rabbi and I said, I'd like to convert, they said, nah, that's all right. And I was like, well, fuck this guy. And so I went to a different one. And I was like, I'd really like to convert. And they're like, no, I did this for a while, longer than I want to admit. And I was like, well, the Jews don't want me. And my best friend at the time was in a Jewish fraternity, and they had a rabbi actually there, and I would have these amazing conversations with him, and it was right around that time that I realized that it might be safe to just not believe. Dan, the only reason I'm bringing up this story is because the only place that I have to be able to relate is to give you what happened to me. And it takes time. And it's okay. You still there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to relate to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, just.
Is there a reason that the gospel of what's it called? I'm so sorry. I don't know very much about.
Oh, the Book of Mormon?
Book of Mormon. Okay. Why do you find that is more compelling than God belief for you?
I don't. I don't really. I don't get most of my beliefs from Scripture.
Where do you get them from?
From the teachings of the church.
Okay. So what?
I think that one of the.
Go on.
Go ahead, sir.
I think we're at a standstill.
Well, we might be victims of the delay.
Right,
actually.
yeah.
But Dan, you were saying?
Yeah, feel as though I want to give up the beliefs but can't. When I have conversations, well, let me just say this. I like if I'm listening to the Atheist Experience or Talk Heathen, I can hear you talking about the Bible, Protestant Christians, really anything other than Mormonism, and I'm like, yeah, right, that makes complete sense. But as soon as it becomes about Mormonism, I feel like the big problem I have, I guess, is because I feel like the religion is so misunderstood. And if I listen to someone debunking or trying to debunk Mormonism, I feel like they're not really debunking what I believe. They're not. I'll give you a perfect example. I reached out and I discovered your Discord channel.
Okay. That's awesome.
And I started talking to some people. And I heard the thing which I hear all the time, which is Mormons believe that after you die, you can become a god and get your own planet.
No, you have to be good with the church to go to the celestial kingdom. Otherwise, you go to telestial. I have a well-thumbed through Book of Mormon Doctrines and Covenants and Pearl of Great Price. We could talk about Mormonism if you'd like.
It just feels like it's a very mocking misunderstanding of what the real doctrine is when I hear that. And so when I hear someone say something like that, it gets me really dug in, and it pushes me in the wrong direction.
It's called the backfire effect. Yeah, absolutely. There's a term for it. Yeah, it's the backfire effect. Totally get it, man. And that's normal. But I think the best for this case is exposure and time. And if you're not ready to talk to other people, I would totally understand. And if that's the case, then I have a few podcasts that I'd love for you to check out.
Yeah.
One of them is My Book of Mormon. When you go into it, the amount of information and research that's done is unbelievable and really, really, really good. You get a lot about the church that's not really told or talked about very often, but it is actual, factual, what happened. You know, a lot about the life of Joseph Smith as pieced together through letters and correspondences written in books that are and are not accepted by the church, depending on how it's viewed, but very clearly bringing you through.
This is your podcast?
No, the My Book of Mormon podcast.
Oh. I have problems when I listen to material like that because I feel like I can't believe it. It's not a question of want to. It's like when you're sort of hated and people always want to make up lies about you, then when you hear something, you automatically think, well, that's a lie. I don't believe that.
Absolutely.
Even I don't know how to separate because, you know, Mormons are sort of hated by other Christians, and most anti-Mormon stuff comes not from atheists or from secular or academic sources.
It's Christians.
It comes from other Christians, and you feel like it's all just a bunch of lies, and that's why I have such a hard time believing. I have a hard time believing a lot of the things that I hear, and I don't know how to separate the fact from the fiction.
Take your time. Take your time. The interesting thing is, it doesn't matter who writes it. Either it's true or it's not true. It's one of those things. And what I would suggest is don't be in a hurry. You know, take the time it's going to require to get there. You'll get there. And if you come to a different result, call us. Because if you took real time into it and you're convinced, holy crap, I want to know. But even if not, let us know. But take your time, brother. That's okay. I'm sure you know rationally that dismissing a person does not get rid of the idea, right?
Certainly, yeah.
Sure. So if you've been trained to dismiss the person, which is something Mormons are trained to do, I understand. But just take your time. You'll get there. I wish I could give you more, man, but it's really that much. So I'll give you one example, right? Early in the Book of Mormon, there was a text that was written by Joseph Smith that was transcribed by a farmer whose wife took the transcript and hid it away and said that I will give it back to you if you can reproduce it again. You know, basically to show whether or not Joseph Smith was just going off the top of his head or if he was actually going from a text, right? And Joseph Smith came back and said, okay, well, I was visited, and I've been told that that book is now closed off to us forever. And so we no longer have access to it, but we have access to another one. Is this ringing bells?
Yeah, see, that sounds like complete bullshit to me. I mean,
so?
I'm not trying to insult you or say that you're lying, but that's what I feel in my heart when I hear that, because I've not heard that. That sounds that my brain doesn't want to allow me to think that's true at all.
You know what? You don't have to believe it because it's me, but look into it.
Nope, that's why I'm calling you, because I trust you.
Don't trust me. I'm just some asshole on the internet. You kidding me?
That.
Have you seen my hair?
But you wouldn't say that. I've never heard you talk to anyone and say things that are factually incorrect or that you couldn't back up with legitimate sources, you know. But when it comes to sort of my own home turf, I can't. You know, I can't believe it. And that makes me feel like maybe that's because it's true. And I can't deny it if it's true.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in such a sort of an inner turmoil, and maybe that it's God telling me I should actually go back to the church. That's ultimately why I'm calling. That's why I'm trying to discover this. And it's been 3 years, and it's like I'm no closer to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you have to understand the teachings of the gospel are separate in my mind from Joseph Smith and where the Book of Mormon came from. You know, I look at Joseph Smith and Brigham Young as largely ignorant people who grew up in a time of ignorance, and they didn't know everything that we understand now. They didn't have the, you know,
but we have a much more
access. Understanding.
They're close enough in history, Dan, that we have access to their actual stuff. And records
I know,
and
but
documents.
what I'm saying is, even if it's true that Joseph Smith was, even if it's true that he didn't have the abilities that he thought he had, then that doesn't really matter.
Agreed.
You know,
agreed.
That's separate from the gospel that he was teaching.
Well, either it was true or it's not true. Whether or not he had confidence in it doesn't change the truth value of it. Either it's true or it's not true.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And when I talk about the teachings themselves, they ring so true to me. And
I got you.
You know.
Check out the My Book of Mormon podcast. There are amazing ex-Mormon communities. If you were interested, even if you didn't want to interact, but just kind of lurk, you know, check it out. I think you may agree that more information is better, not worse. So take your time and research. And I think that's the best we can give you today. But I hope that
I can
helps.
agree with it. Yeah.
For sure. Hey, Dan, regardless, you're a good guy. That the fact that you're having doubts doesn't change it. It just means that if your God is real, then they gave you the brain that is allowing you to doubt, right?
Sure, yeah.
And
You're
that's just
you're being honest
Yeah.
with yourself and with other people. You're saying, this is what I'm feeling right now. This is what I'm thinking about it. And that's a whole huge step all by itself.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you're not the only person who feels this way. We've got the backfire effect. Like you said, there's an entire body of research discussing this. So it is understandable, 100%.
Yeah. Now that said, you're calling into an atheist show. We've come to our conclusion. And we feel like we've come to our conclusion for good reasons. You said you watched the show, so I don't feel like I need to rehash that. But just, you do you, man. See, I wasn't as feisty this time. But we are running a little long, so I think we're going to move on to the next caller, all right?
All right, Eric, thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely. Thank you for calling in.
All right, man.
I mean, what else do you say?
It's pretty much a universal step that I think a lot of the deconverts that I've talked to have experienced.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it takes time. I mean, it took me 3 years to actually, I don't believe any of it anymore. Like it's a process of stripping away, especially when you've been so ingrained and you've been raised up in this. You don't even realize how many layers there are.
No.
I'm still deconstructing certain things that I've been taught.
Well, and the funny thing is once you're out of it, it's like, oh my gosh, can you not see it? And then you become the stereotypical angry atheist,
Right?
And that doesn't help,
Right? Because it produces the backfire
effect. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you kind of need to walk this line. You need to be patient and be able to talk to people if you want to, share and communicate that effectively.
Right.
And yes, there's room and time for anger, and it is justified at many times. But when you're talking to somebody like him, it would do wonders to first reach out and go, I was there, actually. Mm-hmm. I was feeling exactly how you're feeling. I can relate. You're not the only one. It's incredible how powerful that is. You don't get the backfire effect. People go, okay, at least I know that I'm not, floating out in space somewhere.
Because it feels like that.
It does.
It really, really does. Because nobody takes the step that Dan took and actually says, this is what I'm feeling. You think you're the only one feeling that. Yeah. So even just being vocal about it and saying, hey, this is where I'm at, that's a great thing to do just by itself.